Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the TechWokePodcast. I'm your host, Chris, and on this podcast, we talk about cybersecurity, career, and life. And in today's podcast, we're going to talk about me, Chris. I keep getting a lot of comments, DMs of, Chris, can you tell me about your life? Tell me about your tech life and experience and things like that. So, you know what? I was thinking about it. I'm just going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about my life, my journey, my goals, my career in tech. So, we're going to start from the beginning. So, from the beginning, I grew up in Washington, D.C. I lived in Washington, D.C. majority of my life, from Upper Marlboro to Washington, D.C. Aspiration was sports, things like that. Sports, being a sports announcer, things like that. Always sports. And that was something I was thinking about my whole life. Just playing college football, basketball, and then somehow getting rich doing that. So throughout my high school, I went to high school, graduated, and when I was in high school, I didn't really know what I really wanted to do. I had three options. I can go to college, the military, and there were some programs that just did technology, talked about computers, things like that. So for me, I thought about what I'm gonna do. What am I gonna do after high school? So I just went the community college route just to get my feet wet in school. I didn't have the best of grades. I graduated with a very low GPA. I think I graduated like a 1.8, 1.9, something around that range. I graduated right. I didn't take school seriously. I used to go to school. I used to go to school and go to sleep every day. Like literally, I don't even know how I graduated. I didn't do no work. Went there and go to sleep. You can ask anybody. I just went to sleep because it was boring to me. School was boring to me. So, as you can tell, I didn't have the best grades or anything. So I went to community college. I had to take the remedial classes, remedial reading, math, things like that. And I slowly worked my way up through community college, and I decided I was going to originally I was going to major in biology. So I was doing biology when I got to my first school, Bowie State. I thought I was going to do biology, but I was like, okay, this is too much for me. It's just too much. So around like Black Lives Matter, okay, I'm like, okay, I want to be a lawyer. So I started going to court cases, and I was like, okay, I don't think this feels for me. But I knew you can do things with criminal justice. There's a lot of fields you can go into. But the main things they talked about is either being a doctor, or you could be a no, I'm sorry. So the main things they talked about graduating with a criminal justice, you're either a police officer or just social worker, things like that. So I didn't really have no plan. Really didn't have a plan. I got lucky. So a friend of mine, we were just schoolmates at the time. We became more closer later on in life. He was like, "Hey, I'm about to be a criminal justice. I'm about to get a job as a background investigator for the government as a contractor." And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "I'm about to do it." He's either that or he was gonna be a security guard. Both of them gave him security clearances. And I was like, "How much they paying?" He was like 40 something, 45. I was like, "Oh snap!" I said, "Bro, like, you need to. I need to get what you doing. I need to. Hey, who referred you? How'd you get that job?" He said, "Yeah, he gave me the link." So I just sent the person my resume. I sent him my resume. Sent him I did, and and then the recruiter, reached out to me. We did a couple interviews. Um, I did a FSSF 86 form, all that stuff to get the clearance. And by the time I graduated college, I had a job as a background investigator. That's what I had. So I graduated and had a job as a background investigator, and that's what I did for a career for a good while, just investigating people's clearances, things like that. So after I graduated, I'm doing this job. I'm doing this job for about a year, almost a year. I think it was sort of 8 months. And I was in the government contracting space. And as I was in this space, I noticed little things. Like, for example, I noticed that sometimes, like, you can work for a government agency, and then when you're working for a government agency, it's just like little jobs. Like, you're working in the office, just really jobs. It wasn't a career. It was never like, okay, like you're gonna have a career. Like, it wasn't no career. It was just like contract to contract to contract to contract. You want to go to the government side, you have to know somebody. You have to know this to get into the government side. So I'm bouncing around. I'm in here, and I'm like, okay, there's no career in this. So I'm like, what am I going to do next? what is Chris going to do? I need a career. So I see things I've been hearing during the time Security Plus. People can just get a Security Plus at Amazon. They get into the field. So I keep hearing about this and cybersecurity. It's kind of like a secret at the time, and I was like, okay, how am I going to get a job in cybersecurity? Because this is not going to last too long. So what I did is I just did what I thought what you should do at the time. And I don't regret it, but I still I should have did opposite. I went to I pursued a master's program in the cybersecurity program, so cybersecurity digital forensic master's program. So doing this program, I did this program to kind of get a career change. So I during this program, I noticed little things about this program. Number one, a lot of the material was outdated. There's a lot of outdated stuff. You know, they didn't really have a set curriculum, and we went over like the NIST guidelines a lot. We just didn't really have a set curriculum. We studied cyber law, cyber crime. It was outdated, no technology, but it was a master. So I was like, okay, as soon as I'm done this program after a year, I'll get a job. So that's when my start with the career went. So I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna get a job. So I did it. I did the program. I got my master's in digital forensics. I still call it cybersecurity because it's about the same curriculum as a cybersecurity program. I'm like, okay. So as I get my master's, I start applying to jobs in the government contracting space. And I found out a lot of these companies, they'll give me an interview because I changed my resume up and did this because I actually did the stuff that I said I did on a resume. But the reason they couldn't hire me, a lot of these jobs required you to have at the time of a certification, mainly Security Plus, like the DoD, is a requirement. So they kept saying search experience, and search experience, and search experience. My friends doing the same thing. They can't get a job. You tell them search experience, and all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, I gotta get it. So I gotta get a certification. And keep in mind, we didn't have all these influencers like we did back in those times. So I gotta get a certification. So me and my boy, we studied for like almost 4 or 5 months. And we used to use Jason Dion, Get Certified, Get Ahead, flashcards, all types of quizzes we see on YouTube, Professor Messer, everything. So we going at it. We calling each other. You studying, you doing this, you doing that. So what happened was he passed the Security Plus, and I failed. So I failed the Security Plus. He passed it. I think 4 or 5 months later, he ended up getting like a job in cybersecurity. So I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm like, should I just give this up? And I failed by like a couple points. Okay, I was like, well, let me just do this again. So I studied my butt off. I'm talking about I'm listening to Professor Messer going to work. I'm drinking coffee, taking things that help me stay up to study after work. I'm talking about grinding. I didn't leave the house. I didn't leave. I left my friends alone. And I'm just going hard again. And I'm studying, I think, for another 3 or 4 months. And then I took the test and failed again by a couple points. And at this point, I was like, okay, I got to give up. I'm about to give up this program. I'm going to give this up. I'm going to give this up and be done with it. I want to be done with this program, be done. So I was going to give up, but I thought about it. I said, I can't give up. That's just not me. I'm the man. I want to do what I said I was going to do. So since I said I was going to do what I said I was going to do, next thing you know, I'm back at it again. This time I didn't study that long. I've studied so much, I memorized the material. All I did was go on the CompTIA website, saw what I did bad at, and I focused on that. I didn't study anything else. I didn't read no books, no nothing. I don't think I studied for like 2, 3 weeks. I just did practice him, because I memorized all the other study material. And I just memorized some of the keywords and just some of the scenario questions. I just did those. And then here we go again. I took the test, but this time I could take it from home. So I took it from home, and it's more, to be honest with you, it's more strict to take it from home than it is to actually take it at a testing center because they make you show the camera around, cover up TVs, all this stuff. So I'm taking this test again. And it's like, this test is hard. Very, very bland test. You don't know if you're passing or not. So I thought I failed. So I'm taking the test, and towards the end, I just started putting anything because I didn't know. And then I took the test. I looked at the scores. I was like, here we go again. I failed. Failed again. I failed this test again. But, I looked at it. I was like, oh, I passed by like 3 points. I was so happy. I was in tears. I was giddy. I was very giddy. I was happy. I was so happy. I had tears and everything. I passed this freaking test after a long time of doing. So after I passed this test, I started applying to jobs. So this time I have the security plus, then I have the freaking the masters. I got everything you need. They're gonna give me a job. So I'm applying to jobs. I keep hearing the same thing. I'm trying to IT, cyber, because I didn't even at the time I didn't even know there was a difference between IT and cyber. I'm applying to everything, and I keep getting turned down. I'm turned down. I say I put about like 200 applications the first go round. Probably like 200. I don't even know. I applied so many times, over two. I just kept saying, and at this time I was unemployed because I think it was a pandemic or something happened. Yeah, it was during the pandemic. It was during the pandemic. I think I lost my job or something happened. And I keep hearing no, 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 no. So you know what I did? I was like, bro, I need a job in cybersecurity. Do I have a friend in cybersecurity? Keep in mind, at the beginning of the story, I said I had a friend that was in cybersecurity. So I went to go talk to this friend. I said, how do you get into what you do? Because he was a cyber engineer. He was like, yeah, this is a little kind of difficult role. You got to have red hat, all this other stuff. But you know what, Chris? I'm about to be an ISO. I think you should become like an ISO. What is it in private sector is GRC. So I was like, yeah, I think you should become an ISO. I think you got all the qualifications already. And I was like, yeah, I do. So he sent me his resume. I started looking at what he did and looked at what I have to relate to it. So I noticed that, like, okay, our risk management framework, NIST. I did NIST. I got the master's. I took a lot of these classes that relate to it, put it on my resume, and I tailored my resume to that job. So I'm applying to jobs, and I noticed that one thing that was different. I made two ones. I made an IT one, I made a cyber one, and I noticed a big difference, and I tailored it to the job. This time, I was actually going from just not the recruiter. I was going to the recruiter to the actual hiring manager. So I noticed I was getting closer and closer. And now that's what happened. But this time it was just a lack of experience. And this is during the pandemic. So I come to, and during that time everybody wanted to work remote. So I come around this one guy. He was a mentor. I call him a mentor in the field, And he looked at my resume. He started asking me all these questions, RMF and this and that. I said, listen, dude, I don't have no experience, dude. But you know what? I'm willing to work my butt off. And he was telling me, Eddie, you got to come in every day for this position. They only paying like 75K. You got to stay next to me to learn this stuff and do all this. And I said, I'll do it. I do whatever it takes to get this position. This is probably like a 300 applications. And guess what? I got my first job in cybersecurity as an information system security officer. And I didn't know at the time, that's one of the hardest roles you can take because you have to do so much for that role. And as a person with no experience, I didn't never do the help desk. I never did a help desk, nothing. I didn't know at the time, but I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So I had to come every day. I think the first time I came there, I had to do an ATO. ATO is a authorization package. So authorization to operate. So you have to submit a document form of controls and things for the program. I had to do that. I didn't know, like, at first I didn't know, like, for vulnerabilities, I get all these vulnerability scans. I didn't know that I actually had to create POAMs for them, or I actually had to manage that. I had to lead meetings. I'm talking to all these different people. And to be honest with you, I had to do this for 3-4 months. And at this point, I was so burnt. I was coming early. I didn't understand anything that was going on with this position. I didn't know nothing, I didn't know nothing for this position. And I was looking on my way, I was about to quit, and I was about to quit. And I was just talking to a colleague. I talked to a colleague, I was an older guy. And I asked him, like, how do you know, like, when is the best time to leave a job? Like, if things not working out or something like that. I was really having a conversation with him. And he kind of said something in a way like, if you quit this job and you go to another job, like, you're still going to have the same problem. And I think I was borderline about to get fired at the time, to be honest with you, because I was so checked out. He just stopped saying stuff to me. So at this point, I'm like, okay. So I got two things I can do. I can either quit this job, find another one, just keep running, or I gotta learn this job. So you know what I started doing? I said I gotta learn this job. So you know what I did? I started coming in early. Reading, I'm talking about reading my butt off, reading my, even at home, I read to understand what the program is, reading the NIST guidelines, to understand what RMF is, what the steps are, how to mitigate controls. There's some people that was more experienced than me. I just go talk to them for longer periods of time. Sometimes I would even come on weekends. I would work my butt off. When I mean I worked my butt off, I worked my butt off. I did everything. I made sure I got with my PM, everything, all my stuff. I did what I had to do to be successful, because I know the contract by the end is either they're going to bring me on or not bring me on. So I worked my butt off for a whole year. I'm talking about I worked it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had to do what I had to do. So, the year's coming up, the contract's about to end, and they tell me, "Oh yeah." So I talked to the other company that was taking over the contract, and they was like, "Okay, what do you want?" So I asked them what I wanted. I kept saying I wanted to make six figures, so I gave them a six-figure offer of what I want. And you know what? And I was like, they ain't gonna give it to me. This is for experienced person and all this. You know what? They gave it to me. They gave me the salary I wanted. And I was so happy. I was in tears. But at the same time, I had imposter syndrome. I didn't think that I could handle this role. So I was talking to my manager. I was like, can I come on with you? So I didn't think I could handle it. So I was going to go get a lesser salary than him. And then I was going to just take off this six-figure salary. And I didn't understand my worth at the time. I knew the program. I worked my butt off. I didn't think I was really killing it, but I was. But I literally took the other position. So what happened was my friend kept telling, a colleague of mine kept telling me, Chris, you need to take that job. Chris, you need to take that job. Bro, you might not get an opportunity ever to get that type of money. Take that position. Take that position. You know what? I gave in and I took that position. I called them back. I said, yeah, I'll take this role. Can I still want? And they took me back. That's how they know you want them. And they took me back. So I took back and I took this role. Okay, so for this year, I was more of the lead on a program, not the lead. I wasn't the lead. I was the lead mainly for this program, managing the RMF, and I killed it. I got them a two-year ATO, made sure there was no vulnerabilities. There was no. I killed it. I did stuff that a new ISO shouldn't have been doing. I was talking to some of the biggest people, managing all types of projects. I killed that role for the next 2 years. And I've worked my butt off. So that's why when it comes to ISO and GRC, or when I talk about cyber, I really take it seriously because you have to put in a role. You just don't get money in this field. You just don't hand out money. I worked my butt off. So I worked my butt off for this year. I'm doing all this stuff. And so I'm still technically at ISO. So what happened, I recently left my job, took another higher six-figure offer because I built up connections. I worked my butt off so much, people seen it. People starting to recognize it. It was to the point where I was teaching people. I taught another female of mine, and she had the same issue. She was working. I kind of guided her for her position, literally guided her. She did all the work, but I guided her. And then it came to the time when she almost didn't take a six-figure offer or didn't know what to ask for because they didn't understand her worth. So I told her to go ask for the salary you want to, and if you don't want, tell them you're moving to another company, and that's what happened. They weren't trying to get. She's going to another company. They was running and jumping because they knew they needed to keep this girl to keep on this position. So, you got to know your worth, and you got to know what you're supposed to do in this field, and you got to take it seriously. So that's currently my journey in cybersecurity. My next journey in cybersecurity, I'm going to get my CSSP. I'm going to get my CSSP and then probably either transition to a management role. I'm thinking about getting into digital forensics or the SOC. So one of the two that I'm working on, one of the two. But you gotta, you gotta know your worth, and you gotta keep working hard in this role. That's kind of the gist of my career, what I'm doing. I also help out people that's either ISO or in the GRC field and things like that because I've been there, done it. Everything you can look up information on how to get in the field, I've done it. I've done it all. I've negotiated salaries. I've done everything you can do as an ISO or what they call GRC, or in my field they call it RMF. in the private sector called GRC. Still the same stuff. I've done everything you had to do. So if you please check out the newsletter. I'm going to put starting next week, I'm going to start putting out some more information. If you need some coaching on how to get into GovTech, if you need some coaching on how to become an ISO or get into the GRC field, check out the link down below for the coaching. Also, I have some GRC questions you can check out. You can check those out too. And just keep checking me out. I'm going to keep posting on content on this field and my journey in cybersecurity. And I love this field. I love what it can do for your career. But that's pretty much it, everybody. Remember, everybody, get 1% better every day. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, write comments down below, and share the video. Peace out, everybody. I'll see you on the next one.